immerse yourself into the world of Creepy Man. He's waiting for you.
Some dolls are made to be loved. Others are made to be feared. But there is one that doesn't wait for either. It chooses who to haunt. Fog rolled over the outskirts of San Francisco, thick and suffocating, swallowing streetlights and sound alike. Near the edge of the city, not far from SFO, stood a modest apartment complex, old, quiet, and easy to forget. That's where Mara and Dylan had moved. They told themselves it was a fresh start. After a difficult year filled with arguments, exhaustion, and long silences, this place felt neutral, a reset. Mara was an artist, soft-spoken, imaginative, the kind of person who noticed shadows and shapes others ignored. She spent most nights in her small studio, painting until her hands cramped. Dylan worked as a flight mechanic at the airport. Long shifts, odd hours, he was rarely home after dark. The apartment often felt like it was holding its breath. The first knock came on a rainy evening. Mara wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, an old woman stood in the hallway, hunched beneath a dripping black hat. Without a greeting, the woman extended a small box wrapped in yellowed newspaper. "You'll appreciate this," she rasped. Before Mara could ask what it was or who she was, she disappeared into the fog-filled stairwell. Inside the box was a doll, small, wooden, grotesque. Its grin was carved too wide, teeth sharp and uneven. A tag hung loosely around its neck. One word: Labubu. Mara laughed, uneasy, and placed it on the shelf in her studio. As she turned to leave, she thought she heard wood creak behind her. When she looked back, the doll's head was tilted slightly, as if watching her go. At exactly 2:17 a.m., Dylan woke up. Something was scratching, soft, rhythmic. Barefoot, heart pounding, he crept down the hall. The door was ajar. Shadows twisted unnaturally across the walls. The Labubu doll sat motionless on the table. Then he heard it, a faint ticking, a broken music box tune, slow and off-key. Dylan flipped the light switch. Silence. The scratching stopped. The music vanished. He scoffed at himself and turned back toward the bedroom. Behind him, unseen, the doll's glass eyes followed every step. The next morning, Mara was sketching new ideas. When she opened her art pad, she froze. Every page was covered in childlike drawings, crude stick figures, smiling faces, and in all of them stood the Labubu doll. "Dylan, did you mess with my sketchbook?" she asked. "No, why?" When she turned back, the doll was facing the window. She was sure she'd left it facing the wall. She laughed it off, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. That night, Mara heard chewing sound coming from the kitchen. Wet, slow, human. Mara walked in, trembling. The refrigerator door was open, and there, on the counter, sat the Labubu doll, its wooden mouth pressed against an apple, tiny bite marks in the fruit. Mara, "How did you—" Before she could finish, the doll's wooden mouth twitched open. A tiny human tooth fell out and hit the counter. A sudden burst of static distortion rattled the air, and then the lights went out. When the lights returned, the doll is gone. The next day, Dylan did what any rational man would. He went online. He searched for Labubu doll. Dozens of results. Old Malaysian legends, cursed collectors, and one post that froze his blood. Labubu is a Malaysian forest demon. It hides in wooden carvings, feeding on fear. Never speak its name after midnight, or it will find a voice of its own. He looked up at the clock. 12:01 a.m. Almost in a whisper, As if testing fate, he said, "Labubu." The house fell silent. Behind him, a child's giggle. He turned slowly. The doll sat on his desk. Its grin seemed wider. Panic hit. Dylan grabbed the doll and threw it into the closet. He slammed the door shut and locked it. Moments later, the sound came from inside the closet. Then, silence. Dylan hesitated, then opened the door. The closet was empty. The light bulb above him exploded, and from behind him, a whisper hissed.
"Don't you want to play with me?"
He spun around. The Labubu doll was hanging upside down from the ceiling, its glass eyes inches from his face. They fled that night, driving through the fog toward the airport. Mara sat silent in the passenger seat, clutching her bag. Dylan kept his eyes on the road. They didn't speak until Mara asked, "You didn't pack it, right?" "The doll? No," Dylan said. "I threw it away." A faint giggle came from the back seat. Dylan's eyes met the rearview mirror. Two glass eyes stared back at him. He swerved. Police lights flickered in the night mist near the San Francisco underpass. Two bodies were pulled from the wreckage, twisted metal. But among the debris, sitting perfectly upright, was the Labubu doll, its grin wider than before. Mark and Elena, a young couple, moves into the same house. Their daughter, Lily, ran through the overgrown yard. That night, as they unpacked, the wind howled through the chimney like a whisper. The house creaked, alive, listening. The next evening, there was a knock at the door. When Mark opened the door, a man and woman stand outside, drenched from rain, pale. It's Mara and Dylan. Their clothes are torn, their faces expressionless, their eyes empty. They looked oddly familiar, though he couldn't say why. Mara smiled faintly. Her voice was calm, almost polite. "We used to live here. We wanted to give you something that belongs to the house." In her hands was a small box wrapped in old newspaper. Dylan beside her added softly, "Keep it on display. It doesn't like to be hidden." Before Mark could ask who they were, they turned and walked away into the mist. When Mark opens the box, it's the Labubu toy inside. The Labubu doll never really leaves. It just waits for the next door to open. If you think you're safe, think again, because some gifts can never be returned. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more cursed tales waiting in the dark. Turn on the bell icon so you'll know when the next nightmare begins. Subscribe before the next knock.